All right. So, back to Rudolf Steiner. And this is lecture, chronologically, it's lecture number 6 in the Karmic Relationships series. And here I've chosen one of his beautiful blackboard drawings. It kind of reminds me of the soul with all its karmic entanglements and intricacies. And indeed, this lecture is about karma versus freedom of the will. So, typically people wonder if karma is something that is imposed on us from past lives, then why do anything? Aren't we trapped? Aren't we imprisoned by our own karma, by our own former deeds? And culturally, karma is the primary destiny idea in India. Each civilization has its own destiny idea. Like, say, the Greeks have their destiny idea of Moira, which means overstepping bounds. If you overstep a bound, then you get nemesis. Oedipus oversteps a bound, and nemesis falls upon him. So the same thing happens with Agamemnon in Aeschylus when he returns from the Trojan War. Nemesis befalls him, and he's murdered in his bathtub by Clytemnestra. Each civilization has its own destiny idea, and India has the destiny idea of karma, which the West perceives as leading to fatalism, as leading to carelessness. But I don't think that the idea of karma has led to Indian sort of passivity. It's that the whole civilization is that way. They have no historians. Their eyes are closed. The world is a dream for them. They're more interested in watching the chitta vrittis that are going on, the consciousness that is moving inside their minds, than they are in the outer events of the external world. And karma is just part of that. It's not the cause of it. It's just part of it. But it is absolutely not incompatible with freedom, as Steiner points out here. And he says that we have been reincarnating for a very long time, but prior to the Atlantean catastrophe, which he thinks took place somewhere around 10,000 BC, the Earth was so similar to the spiritual plane that reincarnation was not necessary. I don't think that's true. I think that reincarnation goes back way, way, way further than that, well back into the lower Paleolithic, let's say the time of Lucy, 2 million, 3 million years ago. The moment there's a spark of consciousness, I think that's when the reincarnation idea has to come in, because it has to do with the way people treat each other. And he says then in the future, we will reach a point where reincarnation will be unnecessary then too. We'll be done with it. And we will move on into the next phase, the Jupiterian phase, whatever that's going to be. He doesn't characterize the future phases or the future incarnations, let's say, of the Earth. The Earth itself, too, undergoes reincarnations. It's undergone 4 of them so far, Saturn, Sun, Moon, and now Earth, and has 3 more to go, Jupiter, Venus, and Vulcan. So he puts it like this. Imagine that a man decides to build a house. So he's going to put all this effort and work into it. He builds this house. It takes him about a year to do it. He does it himself by hand. He's one of these guys who knows how to do that stuff. Puts it together, and now he's going to live in it. Now he is free, once he lives in that house, to do whatever he wants in it. He can be agreeable or disagreeable to people. He can watch porn on his television if he wants. He can watch C-SPAN. He can watch old movies if he wants. He can do whatever the hell he wants to do in that house because he built it. He has free will in that house. But the house itself, he built through previous lifetimes. The house itself is a metaphor for karma. So he built that house over past lifetimes. It's his karmic abode, and he still has freedom of the will. Now, in ordinary consciousness, people act, let's say, naively. They just treat each other naively. They don't think that there's any consequences for their behavior. Let's say one man treats another man badly, does him an injustice. In the period between death and a new birth, those two individuals will unite and come to an understanding that it needs to be redressed in the next lifetime. So in the next lifetime, there will be either an infliction, it'll be reversed, or there will be a doing of a favor to redress the grievance. And if there is a doing of a favor to redress the grievance, then in another lifetime, it might even lead to a much more appropriate and propitious union. You never know. So that's the way karma works. It just sort of, it's not a punishment or anything like that. It just sort of balances itself out through the way we treat each other, through our own actions. Our own actions build that house for us that we live in and that we make our own decisions for. Now, I'll say this too. Steiner doesn't say this in this chapter, but we have free will in the sense that we chose to come here. We do not have to incarnate on this planet, but we chose to, especially since it's the toughest planet in the universe to incarnate on. But that's where you're going to find all the lessons. So we didn't have to come here. Furthermore, we did not have to agree to the contracts or to the people we would meet when we got here. But we did agree. We used our own free will to agree that certain eventful things will happen to us. Not everything, obviously, because of freedom of the will. Freedom of the will can generate new chains of causality, as Immanuel Kant realized. Freedom of the will is absolutely essential for initiating whole new chains of causality. So we chose to come here. We chose to do this. No matter how difficult our lives are, we chose to do them out of our own free will. And so, given the necessity of working with the karma that we have accumulated. So we built that house in a certain way, in a certain specific way, so we have to live with it. And our freedom is constrained by the house. It might be a big house, it might be a small house, it might be huge, it might be a chateau, it could even be a castle. Whatever it is, those are the constraints. Those are the karmic constraints that we have when we come here to work with. And so I'll leave this here. This was a very short but important lecture. This debate, this certain a kind of antinomy between freedom of the will and karma.